Tonight, you're going to take something to change how you feel. Maybe it's coffee. Maybe it's a drink. Maybe it's something stronger. You'll tell yourself, this is a modern habit. But the real answer is far stranger. Your ancestors were doing this 15,000 years before writing existed, before farming, before cities, before almost everything you'd call civilization. They were getting high, not by accident, on purpose, constantly. For a long time, archaeologists assumed drug use was a side effect of agriculture. Grow grain, some of it ferments, someone drinks it, boom, beer, a happy accident. But the evidence doesn't support that story anymore. The truth runs deeper and stranger. Archaeologist Elisa Guerra-Doce has spent years studying prehistoric burial sites across Europe. What she found wasn't accidental residue, it was intention. Opium poppy seeds placed deliberately in graves, cannabis pollen concentrated in ritual spaces. Traces of hallucinogenic plants found nowhere near food remains, but right next to ceremonial objects. This wasn't farming gone sideways. This was choice. So why does that matter? Because it changes the entire timeline of who we think we are. Think about what you know about early humans: hunting, surviving, struggling to get through the next winter. That's the image you were given. But somewhere in that same struggle, someone was chewing a root, or brewing a mushroom, or inhaling smoke from a fire that wasn't for cooking. And they weren't doing it once. They were doing it enough that we can still find the evidence today. Patrick McGovern, a biomolecular archaeologist who has spent decades analyzing ancient residue in pottery, found something that reframes the entire question. In a 9,000-year-old site in China, he identified traces of a fermented drink made from rice, honey, and fruit. 9,000 years. That's before the wheel, before the pyramids, before most of what you'd call history even starts. Here's the part that should stop you. That drink wasn't discovered in a food storage area. It was found near ritual pottery, which means someone wasn't drinking to survive. They were drinking to feel something. Why would that matter to a species trying to stay alive? This is where it gets uncomfortable, because the honest answer is altered states may not have been a distraction from survival. They may have been part of it. Archaeologist Andrew Sherratt spent much of his career studying what he called the psychoactive revolution in prehistoric Europe. His research suggested something that early anthropology didn't want to hear. Substance use wasn't a weakness that early humans indulged in despite the danger of their world. It was woven into how they organized themselves: rituals, grief, bonding, decision-making before a hunt. Altered states weren't the exception to survival. They were a tool for it. Picture it: a small group, maybe 20 or 30 people, no written language, no therapy, no structured religion in the way you'd recognize it, but real grief, real fear, real questions about why the sun disappears at night and comes back in the morning. What do you do with that, with nothing to explain it? You gather. You share something that changes your state of mind. And in that state, meaning gets made. Fear gets processed. Bonds get formed that hold the group together when the next crisis hits. That's not a footnote in human history. That might be one of the reasons human history happened at all. There's a theory still debated called the stoned ape hypothesis. It proposes that early hominids may have consumed psilocybin-containing mushrooms while foraging, and that this exposure could have influenced cognitive development. Most researchers remain skeptical of the strongest version of this claim. The evidence is thin. But the underlying question it raises isn't thin at all. What role did altered consciousness play in shaping how humans think, bond, and imagine? You don't need the extreme version of that theory to see the pattern. The archaeological record alone tells you enough. Wherever humans settled, evidence of psychoactive substance use appears. Not eventually, early, consistently, across continents that had no contact with each other. That's not a coincidence you can explain away. Here's the twist that reframes everything you just heard. You've probably been taught that human progress came from tools, fire, agriculture, language, all true. But there's a quieter thread running alongside all of it: the desire to step outside your own mind, even briefly, and come back different. That desire didn't start with you. It didn't start with your parents or their parents. It goes back to people who had no calendar, no currency, and no written word, but who still understood something you understand today. Sometimes you need to change your state to process what your life is asking of you. Now think about your own week: the coffee that gets you moving, the drink that helps you unwind, the moment you scroll for 20 minutes just to feel something other than what you were feeling. You call it a habit, a coping mechanism, a modern problem. But it's not modern, it's ancient. It's one of the oldest behaviors your species has. The substances have changed. The rituals around them have mostly disappeared. But the underlying instinct, the need to occasionally step outside your own mind and come back with something processed, something softened, something shared, that instinct is 15,000 years old at minimum, and probably far older. Your ancestors weren't broken for needing this. They were human, exactly like you. So tonight, when you reach for whatever it is you reach for to shift how you feel, you're not doing something new. You're not doing something weak. You're doing something your species has done since before it had a name for itself. You'll tell yourself this is a modern habit. But the real answer was never modern at all.